What is going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. Thank you for joining me for another replay battle. Today I've got a 2 versus 2 versus 2 versus 1 for you on 3rd Age Reforged. This is a particularly special map because, one, it is a map made by Synn of the Darkcloud that has not been released to the general public yet. So as far as I know, this is the first time you're going to see this map anywhere. And two, there are some special army composition rules to go over before we get started. The most important part is that we have unlimited funds. So there's upgrades, there's as many chevrons as you can get on things in this. That is all present. But, however, there are some restrictions on what you can bring in terms of the quality of your units. So you can bring, I believe, 2 units over 1200, or like 1201 plus. And there's also 4 units that are available, I believe, for 800 to 1200, or just, yeah, to exactly 1200, 801 to 1200. And then everything else under that is considered low or mid tier, and you can bring as many and as much of those as you like. There's no composition rules. You can have all the artillery you like. Naturally, people aren't going to bring a ton of artillery, especially on the field battle, because it's not all that useful. But yeah, so some pretty unique rules, I think, that balance things out a little bit. There's not going to be so many god tier units. There's going to be a few of them, but they're going to have some good counters present on the field. And it's a really close matchup. It's obscenely close. It is down to like a single percentage point near the end. So without any further ado, let's get into the replay, or rather, let's get into the army comps, and then we can get into the replay itself. I hope you guys enjoy it. The first army we're going to look at today is the forces of Umbara, but before we do that, I want to mention that there are 7 armies in this battle, so it will take me a little while to get through all of the army rosters. So if you guys are interested in jumping right to the action, I'm going to put a link for you down in the comments section. You guys can click on that and get right into the replay. But in any case, the first Umbara army we're looking at today is the forces of Archangel. He is bringing some Warlords of Umbara, a single unit of Castamir's Rangers. I think he's got some Nar Royal Archers as well, and 1 or 2 units of Abrazani Nardi Baalweeb to round off his skirmish line. He's got 1 unit of Catapult. I think he's got 1, or actually he's got 2 units of Corsair Fencers, who are so good. It says they're heavy infantry, but I think their stats are a little bit more akin to light infantry, but they have multiple HP and 40 AP damage, which is just huge. Now these guys can shut down heavy infantry like you wouldn't believe. I've actually known them to take charges from cavalry like the Knights of Inuminos, for example, and to lose to these infantrymen just because they end up surrounded, and these guys just do so much AP damage. Moving on, I believe he's got 2 units of Castamir's Chosen, a very strong bread and butter unit for Umbara. Definitely want to have at least 1 or 2. 2 is, I think, the optimal amount in your army. Also got a couple units of Harbingers of Castamir, super heavy shock troops, 3 HP, ton of damage. They've got like 40 damage and 48 defense, really, really strong. So it's got some crossbow Corsairs, really strong armor piercing damage. They also have body piercing, like the Uruk-hai crossbowmen. I'm not 100% sure on that one, though. They are very, very lightly armored, however, so they will die in the face of missiles. They will just melt in the face of, like, even militia archers. So you need to be careful with them. High missile damage, but you definitely need to be aware of how you deploy them. Also bring in a unit, just a single unit here of the Corsair Blackguards. Deadly, deadly javelin unit. They do so much with their jabs, and they're also really strong in melee after the fact with multiple HP. So these are a really strong kind of anchor, I would even say, not only to an Umbara line, but to their skirmish line as well, to their short-range skirmish line in particular. I think that does it for his forces. I think he's also got some dual swordsmen, things like that in the front, 2 or 3 units of them, and I think he's got 2 units of Beliger Halberds as well. And now that should do it for his army. Let's go ahead and let's check out mine. I've brought a very similar army to him. I mean, Umbara, you're not going to see a whole lot of variation on their line, unless, well, usually it's among the cheaper picks. The heavier picks are pretty stock standard. You'll always have some Castamir's Chosen, which I do. I got 2 units of them, and a couple units of Harbingers of Castamir to back them up on either flank. I've got a whopping 5 units of Beliger Halberds because I know how strong these guys are. Wanted to capitalize on that for sure. I think I've also got 4 units of Corsair Warriors with armor upgrades, so they look really awesome. They're decked out in their chainmail. Also got 1 unit of Nar Royal Guard Archers, rather. I opted for the Spearman variant over the Archers because I already have a fair amount of Archers, and I don't think that Umbara's strength really relies on their skirmish lineup all that much. I've got a couple units over here of Merchant Cavalry, just in case. It's always good to have these guys. They are anti-cavalry, so they can trade okay, especially if you support them with Spearmen or Halberds and the like. I've also got, I believe, 3 units of the Abrazani Minority Bobweeb, all of them with their armor upgrades as well. Very, very good. I brought these guys not to win a skirmish fight, but simply to occupy the enemy and to outlast them. They're also decent enough medium infantry, but they've got shield values, which means that they can stand up to other archers that don't have those in a missile fight for a very long time. Of course, that kind of goes out the window if your enemies have AP archers, which some of them do, or just AP missiles in general. But still, if you're looking to outlast an enemy skirmish line, shielded archers like the Abrazani Minority Bobweeb are the way to go. So right across from us, we have a very strange alliance. We've got the forces of Mordor here being commanded by Vislak. He's got some Temple Guard, I believe 1 or 2 units of Mountain Trolls, 1 unit of Balrogs. By the way, there are Balrogs in this battle, the lesser Balrog units, which people either like or they hate, or I guess sort of they feel indifferent about them, but mostly I hear from people who hate these guys. So if Balrogs trigger you, this is a good time to maybe watch one of our other replays or our Let's Play or something like that, because they are very much front and center in this. In any case, he's got some Mordor Moranon Uruks and some Mordor Moranon Halberds, which I believe are going to be becoming the standard variant for Uruks for the Mordor line. They are losing the Mordor Moranon variant and just getting the strength of those units baked into the regular Uruks, because it's a bit redundant to have the 2 different kinds of Uruk. Also got here some Uruk archers, I believe 2 or 3, no, he's got 2 units of them, 1 unit of the Temple Guard and some hidden, you can't see them, but there's some Numenorean Shadow Guard here as well. So pretty formidable Mordor skirmish lineup, very much built around entrenching themselves on this hill. He's also got some Sauron's Will, who are decent enough shock troops. They are not super expensive. You'll only be able to get 1 of them, though, before they get really, really expensive to field. They are AP and with multiple HP. Behind them, he's got some Temple Inquisitors. Everybody loves these guys. If you guys have played any amount of Reforged against Mordor at all, you have seen the Temple Inquisitors and you know what they're capable of. 3 HP, heavily armored, high attack values. Also got a Troll Catapult, and these guys, I love this. The Karagor unit here, I believe this was designed by Kuro-Guro-chan, or maybe it was Synn and Kuro at the same time, I don't know. But a really cool, really unique unit that you won't find anywhere else. Very strong heavy cavalry. Their biggest drawback, however, is that they are extremely slow. And it looks like we got a second unit here of the Mountain Trolls, 1 unit of the Mounted Numenorean Shield Guard, who are going to get a buff next patch. From what I've seen in the test build, these guys are going to be really, really good. I think they may have some extra HP, but we'll see about that. I think that does it for Mordor's lineup. Actually, we got a second unit over here of Sauron's Will. Again, this is because people have unlimited money, so this is why you can field armies like this. But you will generally not see more than 1 unit of Sauron's Will in a Mordor line. Over here we have the High Elves, being commanded by Sawbones McTavish. He's got a couple units of the Imladra Storm Raiders. Honestly, not too familiar with these guys. I don't see them get used a lot. At the moment, they feel very, very slow compared to the rest of the Elven roster, so that may be why they don't see a ton of use. But they perform well in this battle, so maybe they're not all that bad. But in any case, they are shock troops, and they are pretty expensive to field. And in the next patch, they're going to get even better. I know that for sure. He's got, I believe, 3 or so units of Sword Quendi to back up his main line. Noldor Elder Nobles, who are absolutely devastating. They are AP in melee, AP arrows. Very, very strong unit right there. I've also got some Phalas Lords who have fallen quite a ways from their previous iterations, where I think they were like AP with like 8 HP and 70 defense. They took like ballista shots to the face and kept on coming and asking for more. They don't do that anymore. They're a lot more reasonable. They're like an upgraded version of the Elder Ringway Spearmen. So I don't think they have AP any longer. I'm pretty sure that's the case. But they do have 4 HP and a lot of defense and decent enough attack value. So they make an excellent anchor for your line. Sawbones also has a couple units of Sindar Blade Masters, 1 unit of Imladris Riders. I think he's also got some Cav hanging out over here as well. Maybe he's got 2 units of the Imladris Riders. I think that does it for his cavalry. Not a lot of like heavy shock cav. He really opted to go for an infantry and archer approach because I think they wanted to stack up on that hill. So he's also got a couple units here of the 3 units, in fact, of the Norityrno Warriors, who are an effective medium archer unit. A couple units of Mithlond Nobles, 2 units of the Elder Ringway Archers. I know so many of you out there are going to be groaning right now. Elves on a hill with Elder Ringway Archers? This is going to be a wash. Not so. The Elder Ringway Archer is very strong, though, one of the few AP archers in the game, and honestly, the High Elves need it to deal with armor. I know that's not going to be a popular thing around the watering hole, but the High Elves have very, very limited anti-armor picks, and just happens just so happens that one of their few anti-armor units is also extremely accurate and fires from an obscene amount of range. But I think that does it for the High Elves. So let's go ahead and take a look at the second team, or I guess it would be the third team. The third team that's over here. And then we'll take a look at the player who's solo. So this is the army of Rune, being commanded by Synn of the Darkcloud, who has gone for a very interesting approach. Now, one of the rules that we had was that you couldn't get more units. Like, if your units went red, you weren't going to be allowed to take them. So obviously people have kind of either forgotten about that, or just it wasn't clear, or whatever. So you're going to see a lot of like doubles and triples of units in here that you wouldn't normally see. So Synn of the Darkcloud, it's got, I believe, 2 or 3 units of the Olog-hai Unesrim. He's also got some Horse Guard, 1 or 2 units of them. Oh man, it's such a mess in here. Look at all this cav. I know he's got 2 units of the Kemmel's Dragon Knights, who are super strong, and you will never ever field 2 units of these except in an obscene money battle like this. He's got, I believe, 2 units of the Chariots, who we've never seen before. We have seen them in a previous battle, but they didn't really amount to too much, and you'll have to see them front and center in this particular iteration. I think he's got 1 or 2 units of bodyguard in there as well, so he's got a lot of cav, a lot of very strong cavalry as well, but that's basically his entire force. It's all cavalry, and at the moment now he's trying to flee away from one of the players closest to him. So let's move on to his ally. This is the force of Isengard, being commanded by Crimson Behalit, one of the content creators for the Third Age Reforged team. So he's got a unit or 2 of Warg Riders. Now, 1 unit of Warg Riders, 1 unit of Skirmishers, a ton of Uruk-hai infantry. I believe he's got about 3 or 4 units of the Uruk-hai infantry, backed up with 2 or 3 units of the Guards of Orthanc. He's also got the standard kind of 3-unit complement of Uruk-hai crossbows, and a whole bunch of pikemen as well. He's got 2 or 3 units of them back there. He's also got a couple units of Berserkers, some Nosgai, and some Nosgai bodyguard to add killing power to his army. So let's move on now to our final player. This one is playing on their own, and they have a little bit of a different set of rules. So the solo player gets double the amount of elites and the super elites everybody else gets, just because it evens out that way because they don't have their teammate. So some really high quality units here that go a little bit farther beyond the standard rules than I think what the rest of the armies did. So this is the Forces of Dale, being commanded by Pope Fliverduk. I believe he's got 3 units of Earls. No, he's just got 2 units of Earls. 1 or 2 units. He's got 1 unit of Dale Dragon Slayers, 1 unit of Royal Guard, 2, I believe, units of Dalian Paladins, 2 units of Dale Swordmasters, and a really strong mainline as well. I believe he's got I think about 4 units of the Dalian Spearmen, who are AP, backed up with 3 or 4 units of the Elder Avari Pikemen. He's also got a large number of dismounted Earls, some Lake Town Pikes, and a strong archer line made up of, I believe, 3 or 4 units of Dalian Marksmen. So a lot of bow power in this army, as you would expect from Dale. But the Dalian Marksmen, let's just say a word about these guys for a moment. They are shielded archers who have really strong missile damage. I think they've got about 10 missile damage, and they're AP in melee, so they're strong infantry after the fact as well. So if they're supported with another unit like these Dalian Spears, for example, that's a lot of AP coming your way. So they may not look like much. I mean, they may look like they're maybe medium armored or so, and that, you know, they're archers, so they're probably not very good in melee. Guess again, these guys can chew you out if you are unprepared for them. So I think that does it for all the army comps. Let's go ahead and let's get into the replay. So when the battle began, we decided we would call a dog pile on the 2 players that were up there on the hill. You can see them in the distance. So Rune is moving over here to connect up with his ally, and I think what they're going to try and do is move on the forces up there on the hill. And Synn only had a limited amount of time in this, so his strategy the entire time, this is very transparent to everybody, was YOLO rush. So that's why he's brought all cav and a lot of shot cavalry at that. And he is just charging through the woods here towards our position. So we're trying to induce him at this point to go over there and attack our enemies up on the hill, because they've got artillery and they're sniping down at us and causing some light casualties. But that hilltop position is one that is quite formidable, and even a lower tier army like Mordor, for example, can hold out very well up there on a hill. And backed up with the High Elves, they are definitely the biggest threat in terms of where they are positioned right now. So they need to be dealt with. So we're trying to come to a compromise and get everyone to pick on Vislak and Sawbones just a little bit. So you can see the runic forces moving themselves on to the flank that the High Elves have occupied. They're going to take the brunt of this defensive force. And I mean, charging into the teeth of a high elven battle line, usually not a good idea, but sometimes rushes like that, very bold moves, can pay off. And like I said, Synn of the Darkcloud only had a limited amount of time to do this battle in, so he's just going to go for it, and I think it's kind of glorious. So we take a look over here. We can see that my ally Archangel has slowly begun to inch forward. I'm lagging a little bit behind him, so he's actually waiting for me to get myself into position. And collectively, we're holding our breath and waiting to see what Synn is going to do. But once he begins to move off of this hill, we realize, okay, he's probably not going to attack us. Either that or this is a very elaborate plan that has actually cost him a reasonable amount of lives so far. You can see these Imladris riders running around that blob of horse archers, literally running circles around them and firing down into some of the lighter units like the Horse Guard, who are very susceptible to that kind of kiting tactic. Now, the Ines Rim and the Bodyguard and the Dragon Knights and things like that, they will stand up to that missile fire very, very well. But Sablins has chosen his targets well, and he is reaping a deadly, deadly toll amongst the ranks of those Horse Guard. And Synn is going to be obliged to respond. He's going to respond in kind. Look at this. That entire cavalry blob going after these guys. And you can see that the maneuvering here is really quite, I would say, smart. Now, he's got Sawbones pretty much where he wants him. He's pinned in between his ally, so he got the Uruk-hai pikemen moving over on that end. So they're going to have to take a long way around. I think Synn of the Darkcloud probably has some horse archers in there as well. I might have missed them in the army comp phase, but he is able to put a little bit of pressure onto those Imladris riders as they run around. They're going to be forced to take the long way around instead of just kiting like this. They've got to turn and let themselves be within range of his horse archers, and that has paid off pretty well for him. You see a lot of dead Imladris riders just kind of sitting out there in the field. And this unit over here, heavy, heavy casualties, down now to about a third of its strength. So if we take a look over here, the absence of Synn of the Darkcloud as a threat on our flank has induced both myself and my ally to move forward. Now, when we get stuck in, I'm going to try and keep cohesion as much as possible, and I'll give you an idea of why that is. Together, these two units, the Corsair Warriors and the Beliar Halberds, are extremely cost efficient. They work very well with one another, and but alone, I mean, they're significantly less powerful. The Corsair Warriors, not all that great. I think they've only got about 27 defense and maybe 11 or 13 attack or something, so they're actually worse than Gondor infantry. But the Beliar Halberds have a lot of damage, but are very, very easily shot down. So I've found that mixing them in together like this, the Corsair Warriors will often take the brunt of arrow damage and things like that. They will actually block for the Beliar Halberds, which increases their longevity quite precipitously. So it's definitely worth it to take your time, be patient, and try and keep your army together and have them work together as a team. So we've effectively surrounded this hill. Artillery shots being traded back and forth. Oh, one of those units like Harbingers of Castamere. That would have killed any normal mortal, but the Harbingers of Castamere, 3 HP. I don't know what they do, what kind of training regimen they have, but they are very strong. Ooh, it looks like some of those Castamere's chosen took that catapult shot to the face. They're going to be all right, though. They're fine. Just walk it off. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what's happening over here. Looks like Synn of the Darkcloud is about to get stuck in. Oh, a big cav charge here, getting intercepted by the Sindar Blade Masters. That's going to hold down a lot of that cavalry. They're not going to be able to push through, despite the weight disparity between these two kinds of units. They're not going to be able to push through as quickly as they want to, and the elves are just raining hell down upon them. Those AP archers and the Nori Turna warriors reaping a terrible, bloody toll amongst the ranks of these horsemen. Instead of the Darkcloud, it really seems has bitten off more than he can chew. Oh wow, the Imladris riders looking like they're out of ammunition, actually charging in there against the Ines Rim, getting some decent kills. I don't know if it's them or the archers, but Synn of the Darkcloud's cavalry forces have suffered grievously at the hands of the elves already. This has only been going on for just a few moments. More reinforcements coming in, and there's yet more to come. Another few units of Ines Rim, and you can see his super heavies are in the back as well. The Bodyguard and the 2 units of Camel's Dragon Knights yet to come, and they are managing to push through the Blade Masters. It is taking a toll on the Sindar to hold them back, but they were not supposed to win this fight. Oh, there goes the Mordor General. I totally forgot about that. Visag's General gets sniped out really early on, and that's going to be pretty important a little bit later. Definitely a big victory in the early game over the forces of Mordor. But these Sindar Blade Masters, Sawbones was never relying on them to win this fight. They were here to hold these guys down. And look at this. Look at that pile of dead cavalry. That is such a huge investment on the part of the runic forces. Now some of their heavy units have managed to get in here, stuck in amongst the Mithlon nobles, who I think I missed in the army section as well. And they're doing okay, but they're surrounded, they're being hit on all sides, and you can see them falling really, really quickly. So this has turned out to be completely ineffective for Synn of the Darkcloud. Now, he didn't fully commit. He's got a lot of troops in the back there. You can see he's actually abandoning his first wave to their fate. New Zealand Rim, they're doing okay. They've got a lot of mass. They're able to push in there and do some decent damage, but ultimately, that was a big loss for Rune. So if we move on to the other end, we can see that his ally, Crimson Behelid, has moved in to threaten the position of Pope Fluffy Duck. And I think a lot of this has to do, like Synn of the Darkcloud pulling out his forces, partially because he didn't want to lose everything in the first few minutes of the battle. That would be very, very silly. But also his ally is going to need some support. And the fact that the Dale forces have this much of an army, and they're sitting over here in this corner, they're asking for it. Whenever you do this in multiplayer games, people will usually gang up on you. Camping seems safe. I realize that because you get to kind of pick the ground that you want to fight on, but people will pick on you, so be prepared for it. So the Dalish force is opening up with their Dalian marksmen against the forces from Isengard. Oh man, those Uruk-hai pikemen just getting peppered down. Very, very effective. That high missile damage goes right through that armor, and the Uruk-hai pikemen really rely on that almost exclusively to defend themselves from ranged attacks. Crimson Behelid moving forward with something of a probing force. Got, I believe, 3 or 4 units of the Uruk-hai infantry moving in to threaten Fluffy Duck's flanks and scout out the woods and make sure that there's no hidden units in here. And there very well could be. I mean, some of the Avari units can hide. I believe there's also some Athala Rangers and some other like javelin units and things like that that would be very, very deadly to a slow-moving block of infantry like the Uruk-hai. But luckily for Isengard, there is no such thing. And now Fluffy Duck's archers are going to be forced to stop firing and flee behind the safety of his lines. It's not going to make too much of a difference for them. They are going to be able to set up here on the hill and fire pretty well directly down into the Uruk-hai. So Dale really has a nice spot here. They've picked their ground well, and they're going to use that to their advantage. Moving over here, you can see some of the Warg skirmishers. Oh man, getting caught out by the Dalish Earls. That's really unfortunate. These guys, when kiting, oh man, they would destroy these Earls, but in melee this, they are not going to trade well at all. So the Uruk-hai infantry being the first into the fray, getting stuck in with the dismounted Earls. Let's pop over to the other end and see how things are going. Ooh, a little bit of lag there. You can see that the Umbara front lines have collided with Mordor, and we're doing okay. Again, my strategy here is to keep my units together, keep their cohesion together, and just try and keep my battle line from breaking and reinforce it where it needs to be with my reserve units. So I've kept my elites in reserve, and I've sent in my cheaper units first because I want to wear down my enemy. So you can see a lot of Belgier halberds and things like that in there, alongside my Corsair warriors, and they're not doing bad. It's a pretty even fight despite the hill disparity. The AP from these halberds really going to start to take a toll on these guys. So if you look over here, we actually managed, I think these are exclusively my forces, I managed to catch out the troll catapult from Vislak as he was moving it over here to begin pounding Archangel's lines. So I managed to get in there, catch them, and actually all of the trolls died. So we effectively neutralized one of our opponent's big, scary advantages while keeping ours intact. So Archangel's still got his catapult in the back there, and he's able to fire pretty well freely anywhere he wants into Vislak or Sawbone's army. He's got a nice enfilading firing line kind of lined up here. So if he shoots, he's going to probably get a minimum of friendly casualties, which is what you want to try and do with your catapults. They can be a little bit finicky. So I've arranged my Castlemar's shows and my Harbingers of Battle line, I think, fairly carefully. I'm kind of surveying where I think the biggest problems are going to come from. And ooh, some nice catapult shots there. Looks like I took out one. Actually, that's a lot of friendly fire, but it blew up one of the catapults, so it was kind of cool to watch. But I can see the biggest problem is going to be in my center, so I'm going to move in with my Castamir's Chosen, help out Archangel's forces here in driving back the Uruk archers and the Sauron's Will, and at the same time I'm going to bring my Harbingers of Castamir and my General Bodyguard to to bear against two positions at once, essentially. I've got some of my Harbingers stuck in against these trolls, but I'm also able to lend a little bit of support here to my ally thanks to my very long formation. Now over here you can see I've also committed another unit of Harbingers of Castamere. I started to notice that the elves were overlapping my right flank, and I wanted to prevent them from doing this. And the Harbingers of Castamere have really, really high attack values. I think with all the upgrades and everything, they had like 42, which is enough to make mincemeat of the Sindar Blade Masters. They rely almost exclusively on their armor. I think or on their melee defense rather. I think they've got like 2 or so armor, so they really get cut down by a very strong, multiple HP professional unit like the Harbingers of Castamere. Now, at this point, my Abrazani Minardi Bawweeb have really used most of their ammo, so I'm going to send them over here into the center where those Balrogs are really giving me a lot of trouble, because I want to try and keep this locked down for as long as possible. I've got some elites over here to deal with, the Mordor, Uruks, and a few of those trolls, and they've done so quite adeptly at this point, so I really need more reinforcements in my center. And my strategy with those archers was just to try and pepper down some of the lighter, more vulnerable units, like the Uruks, like the Halberds, and like the Sword Quendi, for example, and then get them stuck in immediately. So over on this end, Archangel struggling a little bit against the Mordor Uruks. These Beligary Halberds in a straight fight against the Mordor Halberds will win. You can see the Castmere's Chosen charging into this defensive wall of Halberds. The Chosen will win this. That is a fight that they are more than capable of winning. But against these AP units in a defensive stance, it's going to be a little bit ugly. You will take more damage, I think, than you need to. And the Castmere's Chosen are going to lose a lot of HP to those fearsome Halberds. In the back, though, the rest of Archangel's army really very much intact. You can see the Mordor Cavalry tried to deal with, or was dealt with, rather, by the Warlords of Umbara. He also had some infantry in there to support them. So we've pretty well pushed back most of the Mordor Cavalry at this point. So they're kind of stuck here. They don't have their Ballista, they don't have their Cav, and they're very much at the mercy of our ranged units like our Catapult, for example, and our very, very strong infantry that is more than a match for the Elves and Mordor. Now if you look over here, the Elves have actually managed to break through my center. Very unfortunate, but they're not really capitalizing on it right now. I think those Noritino archers are brought forward just a little bit to try and put a little bit of pressure on my merchants. You can see a lot of dead merchants in and around here. I actually got pushed off this hill by Synn of the Darkcloud. You can see his remaining cavalry, his 2 units of Kummel's Dragon Knights and such, were patrolling the area, and they charged into the rear of my merchants, apparently not liking them on that hill there. Maybe he has some plans for it or in the future, I don't know. But yeah, I've got this big gap here, and you can see that I'm moving in to fill it now with a unit that is more than capable of beating down those Noritino warriors. Now the Balrogs are going to get out of there, or are going to try and get out of there, but they're going to get caught in the fray by my Castmere's Chosen. Going to get a nice rear charge here, and that's going to be some HP damage that I don't think those Balrogs can afford at this point. And against the Noritino warriors, that is no problem. The Castmere's Chosen are multiple HP. I believe they have 3 HP as well, and really good attack and defense stats. They're going to make mincemeat of the Noritino, and you can see them already beginning to hack those guys down. So let's take a jaunt on over to the other end and see how Dale is holding up against Isengard. It's looking pretty equal. Definitely in favor of Dale, though, but for the time being, Isengard is holding their own. They are losing on the flank here. This Dalian Spearmen backed up by Swordmasters. Nasty combo. Over here we got the Dalian Paladins in the center who are smashing through the Isengard infantry. These Guards of the Orthanc are going to be able to hold them back for only so long. A lot of pikes here in the center fighting against the Nazgai. In the center, it's a little bit more even, and then we've got some Uruk-hai pikemen over here pushing hard against the Elder Avari pikes. I think the Uruk-hai pikes have the numbers to beat these guys down. The Elder Avari pikemen are much better armored, I think, than most pikemen. They're definitely above average, and they've got really good melee defense as well, higher than average, being elves and all. But I think the numbers there of the Uruk-hai pikemen will be enough to see them through. And you can see the Elder Avari pikemen really dropping quickly. Now, over here on the Isengard right, though, things are very ugly. Pope Fluffy Duck actually has an opportunity here potentially to surround these guys, but I think he's going to keep those Dalian Spearmen where they are because of this menace of Synn of the Darkcloud. Now, Synn of the Darkcloud really needs to get in there with his cavalry and help his ally out, because I don't think that Isengard has a whole lot left at this point. Oh no, we just have another wave, got some Berserkers and things like that, got some crossbows and some more pikes. So Isengard's still in the game. Another unit of Warg Skirmishers over there. Maybe he had more than one of them and I just didn't notice. But if they're going to win this, they're going to need to throw in the rest of the Isengard infantry and get in behind Dale with their cavalry superiority and try and gun him down, because otherwise they're going to get cut to shreds by the infantry, and the reserves are going to be shot up by their very, very strong archer lineup.
Only half the enemy force.
Let's move on over to the other side. We can see that we're making some headway against the elves in Mordor. My ally Archangel, I believe, has actually joined me on this flank with some of his units mixed in there as well. Abrazanim, my Harbingers of Castamere and things like that, pushing hard against the Sauron's Will and the Mithlon nobles. But now is going to be the time when I want to deploy my my Corsair Blackguards, and I've been doing something very specific with these guys. Now I've been doing kind of a slow creep up here towards the archers, or towards the main line, because I was afraid of those High Elven archers shooting these guys down. So I'd creep forward a little bit, go into hiding mode, let the Elven player forget about me, let him get a little bit busy with whatever else I'm doing, and then start to creep those guys forward just to slowly get them into position. Now over here I'm attempting a flanking movement with my cavalry. I've sent one unit running into the Sword Quendi to deal as much damage as possible. My other unit here of merchants, unfortunately getting entangled in these Balrogs. I was clicking furiously to get these guys out of there so I could use them for a hammer and anvil attack on the Elvish left. They're actually going to connect, charge downhill into those No Return to Warriors. Not as strong of a charge as it could have otherwise been, but that little bit of extra help is going to put some pressure on the elves and assist my units here in punching through. Because my Harbingers of Castamere, they've been fighting for a long time, and with the addition of these Mithlon nobles and all these extra No Return to Warriors, it's not going to be an easy fight. So Archangel coming over, try and give me a little bit of assistance. I've actually got my General Bodyguard pulled out of combat just to try and keep my General alive, because I don't need my infantry routing. And they're going to sit there and provide a morale buff to everyone around them. But yeah, this is definitely something, this is a cluster of troops that could really use with some javelins, and that's exactly what they're going to get. See my Corsair Blackguard here moving on to the flank, trying to get themselves into position quickly. I can see those Storm Raiders coming down to try and reinforce the flanks. Looks like Sawbones is trying to break me on his left and then roll up the rest of my line, but luckily my Corsair Blackguards in the area are going to prevent that from happening. So a quick toss into the No Return to Warriors, going to do a fair amount of damage to them, hit some of the Sauron's Will and the Mithlon nobles as well. And that is going to slowly begin to turn the tide. I see that large blob of Imladra Storm Raiders, and obviously I'm going to go for them with my Javies. So you can see a fair amount of those Imladra Storm Raiders actually falling in the retreat. Sawbones is going to redeploy them. Oh, another nice shot there, scything down the back ranks. A solid, almost a dozen or so of them fell there. But Sawbones is going to manage to get them out of range and use them to reinforce his center, where my forces are really flagging. Over here I'm doing well. Belgier Halberds, Abrazanim Nardubawib, and what remains of my Corsair Warriors holding their ground against the Sword Quendi. But over here I have definitely been broken. There's some Castmere's Chosen, a reasonable amount of Castmere's Chosen, backed up by some Abrazanim Nardubawib, but the influx of the Storm Raiders is going to prove to be a real problem. So I'm going to quickly scoot over there with my Corsair Blackguard and try and put a cork in this big hole in my main line. See them quickly getting into position. Now Vistak's going to move down with his Balrog and try and disrupt them so they can't get their full volley off. A few shots managed to go into the back of the Storm Raiders, but unfortunately my Corsair Blackguard were caught out. So I move in with my unit of Narnar Royal Guardsmen to deal with that single Balrog, and this very strong General's Bodyguard Spear unit is going to succeed in taking down that beastie, which is going to allow us to toss the rest of our Javelin payload into this huge blob of High Elven infantry. So these poor Storm Raiders and the Sword Quendi are going to suffer quite grievously at our hands.
Without him, his troops will lose.
Now that looks like the Isengard general that just fell against Dale, so we'll pop over there in just a second. Another nice javelin volley there, scything through the Elven ranks. My forces are holding the Castmere's Chosen down to a meager 13, but the presence of these Corsair Blackguard now charging into battle to surround the Storm Raiders and the Quendi is going to turn the tide of that fight. So the Elven army, in most places, has effectively been broken. You can see some Castmere's Rangers here helping the Corsair Blackguard and some Halberds to surround a unit of Sword Quendi. They're going to fall apart real quickly, and some of the elite Umbara units are going to be able to get in here against some of the archer units. You can see the Elder Army archers now having to flee in the face of those elite warriors, and these Storm Raiders are going to be quickly overwhelmed, which is going to really not leave a whole lot of things for the High Elven player to do, but try and retreat and save some of his army. But let's pass over to the other end. We can see the forces of Dale, surprisingly enough, they have been scattered, and I think a lot of that has to do with the presence of these cavalry in behind their lines. You can see those Dale marksmen have just been run over. All those camels, Dragon Knights, getting a beautiful flanking charge into the Dalian marksmen, and that's going to cut down many of them indeed. Fluffy Duck moving over with some pikes out of spear wall formation, trying to get in there, trying to lend some a little bit of support to his Dalian marksmen, keep them alive, but those heavily armored horsemen are actually going to be able to get out of there in time. Looks like Dale's going to get a little bit of revenge here. One of his earls cutting down the runic warlord, but I think it's all too little too late. That same unit is going to get countercharged by a unit of Camel's Dragon Knights, and most of them are going to fall in battle. Over here, the Dalian Swordmasters trying to band together with the survivors from the main line. Dalian Spearmen, Dalian Paladins, hacking apart the Uruk-hai infantry, but just relentless cavalry charges coming in, not just from Rune now, but from Isengard as well. I think we got a couple units of Warg Riders in there, charging into the rear of the Dalian Paladins, and now with the Isengard crossbows well within range and the Dalian archer line in shambles, I think Dale is going to slowly but surely begin to crumble. Yeah, those crossbows are just pounding the Dalian center, and those paladins are going to fall apart real fast. And back here you can see the Royal Guard and the rest of the archers trying to put up a fight, trying to do what they can against the Dragon Knights and the Runic Bodyguard, but there's now wargs coming in there. There's just not much that they can do. The wargs are going to get in there amongst the pikes, actually not take any casualties charging into the front of those pikes. I think it's because the pikes weren't braced or in defensive formation, probably one of those two things. But I think this is definitely the end of Dale, and the Runic forces just slowly mopping them up. Rune's going to get a little bit of revenge there for the loss of his commander, cutting down the Dalian general with his bodyguard. So let's pop back over onto the other end. You can see that Umbara has been victorious. Myself and Archangel, we have managed to wipe out pretty much all of Mordor and most of the High Elves, and we're just in the process of mopping them up. But there is still some formidable stuff left on the field. Now, if you look over here, these Mordor Mornon halberds are running protection for the Noldor Elder Nobles, and I just can't get close enough to them quickly enough with my tired Corsairs. These guys are so fast, and they are fresh, whereas my guys are winded. So even these Corsair Blackguards, swift as though they may be, they're not going to be able to catch up to these Noldor Elder Nobles in time. Now, what Salvins wants to do is just get a little bit of distance, try and bottle me up with one of his allies' units, like those halberds, for example, and then just pelt me down with those AP missiles. So I'm stopping here, trying to reform my forces a little bit because they lost so much of their cohesion in that wild charge, and Salvins McTavish is going to take that opportunity to reform and get off a good volley with his AP arrows. And that is actually going to skewer a lot of my Blackguard. You can see, I think I lost like 3 or 4 of them there, which is very surprising given that these multiple HP units are usually quite sturdy. Now over here, you can see the Phallus Lords in a bit of a scrap here against my Bellier Halberds in defensive formation. These guys will hold out for a really long time, and it's going to give me an opportunity to move in with my Narunar Royal Guard, who are AP as well, and you can see me moving in with yet more Halberds, and I think I've also got some more AP units over here as well. Some Corsair Fencers from Archangel being committed to the cause. These Phallus Lords, very strong, but surrounded with AP units, they will fall, and they will fall quickly. Moving on over here, my Corsair Blackguards managed to get in there and slaughter the Elven General. Those Noldor Elder Nobles, though, they are unfazed, and they are not going to take that line down. They're going to fight back hard against my Corsair Blackguard. We're going to quickly find themselves outmatched in the face of these deadly, ancient Elven warriors. So let's see what's happened with Dale here. I think at this point, Dale has been completely wiped out. Isengard... Oh no, there's a little bit, look at that. There's like an Earl left. And I think they have like one hidden spearman somewhere that you'll see at the end of the game. But for the most part, Fluffy Duck has been swept from the field. Now Rune has taken obviously very heavy casualties as well, thanks almost uniquely to the High Elves. And Isengard as well really broke most of their army assaulting the Dalish position. So whoever comes out on top of this is it's gonna be small bands of warriors fighting against other small bands of warriors. Unless, of course, these Phallus Lords are set loose. And we definitely need to do number on them, so Archangel's going to come in there with his Corsair Fencers. And that, along with some Abrazanian Nardu Bobweed from myself, should be enough to deal with those heavily armored Elven Spearmen. Over on this end, though, my Corsair Blackguards losing out in the face of the Noldor Elder Nobles. It says defeat is a distinct possibility for them, but but do not believe it. These Noldor Elder Nobles will turn the game around real quickly. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with their AP damage. Now over here, Archangel moving in with some Abrazanium Nardubaweeb to try and support my my Corsair Blackguard. We really don't want the Noldor Elder Nobles to be able to have a chance to fire, so we're going to do everything we can to just bog them down for as long as we can, so we can finish dealing with the Phallus Lords, and then wheel back around with everything else that we have left, and crush the remaining Elder Bodyguard. Well, let's see here. Yeah, Synn and his ally Crimson Behalit are just... They are regrouping their forces and getting ready for the final showdown between whoever comes out on top in this engagement. Let's go ahead and let's fast forward just a little bit there. Phallus Lords slowly but surely being beaten. Archangel luckily still has many of his elite units left. Now, most of my elites are gone. I think a lot of that had to do with fighting uphill against some really strong Elven units. But luckily for me, Archangel has quite a large number of really strong troops left. Although I think we almost completely lack missiles at this point. So, Synn of the Darkcloud, all gloves are off apparently, and he's going to charge into Archangel's Abrazanium Nardubaweeb, who were quite busy fighting those Noldor Elder Nobles. He's also going to get some Noldor Elder Nobles kills as well. But that charge is going to send those bowmen fleeing for the hills, and I don't think that Archangel's going to get them back at this point. Noldor Elder Nobles retreating, hacking down one or two of my remaining Corsair Blackguards, which is going to leave my Corsair Blackguards the kings of this tiny little copse of wood here, where most of their unit fell fighting the Elder Nobles. So Synn of the Darkcloud going to wheel back out and just search for targets with his cavalry. Anything easy and expensive. So, for example, the Naru Royal Archers or the Harbingers of Castamere are a very obvious choice for him.
Our ally lies dead.
Looks like Archangel just lost his general fighting the Phallus Lords. Very unfortunate.
The battle is very much in our favor.
Naru Royal Archers going to countercharge the Dragon Knights, but they're actually going to lose quite a lot of their number in that fight. You can see a countercharge there from the Harbingers of Castamere is going to claim the lives of quite a lot of those bodyguard. Synn of the Darkcloud perhaps got a little bit too bold there and lost a significant number of his remaining cavalry. Now I think I've got some tiny units in here as well that I'm trying to send to the aid of Archangel, but for the most part I think all of my remaining forces, or the lion's share of them in any case, are still stuck fighting the Phallus Lords. We need to kill these guys, we need to kill them fast so that we can wheel around and deal with Isengard and with the remaining runic cavalry. So at this point when we took a look at the Isengard army, we thought, we have no archers whatsoever. We are completely boned, and honestly this is a really tough situation to be in. 2 units of Uruk-hai crossbows who have body piercing against units like the Harbingers of Castamere or some of these archers or the Castamere's Chosen. They're going to ignore the shield value bonus from the front and have the armor value. A lot of our units really rely on their armor, and the ones that don't are equally easy kills for high damage missiles, like these fencers, for example. So if we look over here, Synn of the Darkcloud just kind of bobbing and weaving, looking for an opportunity to kill whatever he can. And he's gonna get it. Those Naru Royal Archers are gonna get charged pretty well simultaneously by those 2 units of cav, although I think they're too tired at this point. They're not gonna be able to mount as effective a charge as they may have otherwise been.
Victory will be ours.
Now over here we've just hacked down the last of the Phallus Lords, which is going to free up a large number of our infantry for more important things, like butchering orcs, for example. Now Archangel's going to move forward. He's going to put himself in loose formation and just charge straight at his enemy. Now look over here, looks like the Corsair Fencers were being targeted by those wargs, but unfortunately angle wasn't good. Isengard wargs are going to get themselves caught between some really tough customers. Those Harbingers of Castamere and the Corsair Fencers combined are going to kill a significant number of those cavalry, although they don't rout those, so at least Behalit still has them. Now Synn of the Darkcloud over here, trying to prevent our 2 forces from linking up. He's going to charge at me with his Camel's Dragon Knights. Now the plan here was to try and bait him into the halberds and to the spears that I had right there. And it does work out reasonably well. You can see one of the Dragon Knights dying. The cavalry, for whatever reason, circles back around, and they lose a few more of their men. These are losses dearly felt, especially at this late point in the game. Synn of the Darkcloud cannot afford to lose a single man like that. So this is really this is really the decisive point in the game. They don't have enough cavalry left to beat us. We've got a significant amount of infantry in any case, and I think we might have 1 or 2 skirmishers or things like that, like a very small amount of skirmishers. But the Uruk-hai crossbow on their own, they can't beat us. So at this point, we've really won the game. Synn the Darkcloud, however, is not going to give up. Going to charge hard into the Corsair fencers with all of his remaining cavalry, and to actually get a decent amount of kills against them. We're in the Sitting Sea. I think these are Archangel's Harbingers. Yep. His Chosen as well, and then the rest of my forces are slowly arriving. Got some halberds and some Abrazanium Nardi Bawib, and of course my reasonably healthy General's Bodyguard with about 16 men still left in it. And there you have it, the Uruk-hai crossbows being scythed down. Nothing really that Synn the Darkcloud can do at this point. I've actually set up my Belgier halberds in our back lines to try and defend us. Synn the Darkcloud is going to be able to bypass it because my Belgier halberds too tired to be able to catch up to these guys. But unfortunately for the bodyguard, they're going to get caught between some nasty Umbara infantry and some Belgier halberds, and most of that cavalry is going to fall apart really quickly. 1 Camel's Dragon Knight still left over, but it's just not enough. So let's go ahead and let's fast forward through this and put it on 6 times. And there we go. The last of the Dragon Knights has now fallen. There's like 1 Warg skirmisher or something, and I think he's actually going to end up routing. Over on this side, we can still see a few Elven nobles left. I think there's about 4 of them. Archangel trying to chase them down with his 12 Harbingers of Castamere, but if they keep getting shot like that, he's not going to be able to maintain his numerical advantage for too much longer. And these guys only tired, whereas the rest of the the Harbingers of Castamere are very tired. So look at that. They actually dealt a lot of damage to them and managed to chase off that group of them. Archangel being forced to retreat. Vislag actually has some temple guard in there, and they're going to get swept away very, very quickly. And this is pretty well the last of our opponents. So we're just cleaning up everybody at this point. I think that's pretty well everybody, but no, hark. Anon, there is 1 hero, 1 Dalian spearman left who's going to charge the ranks of everything that remains to Umbar. And he's going to die a brave warrior's death. Hacked down almost immediately. But at least he went out fighting. So the Umbar forces, really almost nothing left. Like handfuls of men, very tiny amounts of troops. A very good battle. Let's just quickly serve. Oh no, we're not going to have an opportunity there. But a very good battle to everybody involved. Very close. And yeah, I was happy to actually win for once, because usually 90% of my games I lose them. So this is a nice treat. So looking at the kills there, Archangel getting a solid 1450. I got 2015, so we both did really well for ourselves. I think the most kills actually ends up going to Vislag, however, taking on 2 Umbar armies at once. That is pretty impressive. His ally did really well, 1700. Everyone pretty well did extremely well for themselves. Synn the Darkcloud got the least, but then he had the least amount of forces to use in his efforts, and most of them died, I think, really early on in the battle. So yeah, let's take a quick look at the casualties there. I hope you guys enjoyed another Third Age replay. It's not going to be the last one for a while. I'm actually planning on doing a lot of Third Age this month, alongside our Immortal Empires campaign, and of course, Techless. So I've got another one coming up after this. It's going to be sort of a late Halloween special in the Dead Marshes, so get excited for that, because it's a really good game. Very fluid, very interesting. I have to say, probably one of the cooler replays that I've been sent in recent times. But yeah, that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you all in our next episode. So take care, everybody. Bye-bye!